My parents bought my brother a house, but refused to help with my daughter's surgery. She's adopted, Dad said. What I told them at dinner ended our family forever. When my little girl needed life-saving surgery, my parents casually told me she wasn't fully family. That bitter truth hit while they were busy buying my irresponsible brother a brand new house, revealing a betrayal I never saw coming. Look, my name's Mark. I'm 36, and I drive a taxi, mostly nights, in a city where construction is a permanent landmark and everyone's got an opinion on pizza. You learn a lot doing this job. You learn patience. You learn to listen. You learn that sometimes you just gotta get people where they need to go, even if their directions are terrible. That's pretty much how I lived my life, especially with my family. Just nodded, listened, and tried to get everyone where they thought they needed to be. I'm the older son. Always have been. The steady one, the useful one. The one you could hand a list to and know it would get done. Then there's Evan, my brother. He's 30, the golden child. The easy laugh, the big dreams, allergic to early mornings, and anything resembling a long explanation. Mom calls him our sunshine. Dad calls him our hope. Me? I just got called steady. I met Anna on a cold February morning. She was late for her bakery shift, grumpy, with a box of slightly off croissants. I got her there before the ovens beeped. She paid me in pastries and a phone number. We built a life out of second chances and early mornings. We rented a 2-bedroom over a pharmacy. My parents live 15 minutes away and think that's a moral claim on our time. Hers live 3 time zones away. We adopted our daughter, Lily, when she was 3 weeks old. She's 8 now, with a small dimple, a loud opinion about socks, and the habit of calling every dog sir, even if it's clearly a lady. When I pull up to her school in the cab, she runs at me like her backpack has wings. Lily took our boring, stable life and turned it into something bright. She hates blueberries unless they're in pancakes. She sings to the vacuum cleaner. She loves maps. She'll sit in the back of my cab, tracing lines in my old atlas like she's planning a heist. My parents always said Lily was sweet. But then, in the kitchen, when Mom thought Anna couldn't hear, she'd whisper, "It's just different." Dad would nod into his coffee. "Blood is blood." I used to push back. "Family is work." Mom would just frown. "Don't be dramatic." Then, last winter, the ground beneath us shifted. Lily's cardiologist, a man who spoke in calm, quiet tones, told us about the surgery. Within a year, he drew a simple heart on a billing sheet, circled the part that needed help, and explained it like a weather forecast. I folded that paper like it was the most fragile thing I'd ever held. Anna reached for my arm under the table, her grip tight. We drove home in silence, the radio off. I couldn't tell my parents that day. I waited a week, until they came over to drop off some canning jars for Mom's soup season. They sat at our tiny kitchen table, complimenting the curtains. I just blurted it out. "Lily will need surgery this year." Mom blinked fast. Dad put his hand on the box of jars, like he might just lift it and leave. "We'll pray," Mom said, her voice thin. Dad echoed her. I thought, okay, this is it. The first stone in a wall of support. I was so wrong. But that part comes later. Tonight's scene, Sunday dinner at my parents' house. Roast chicken, those green beans Mom always overcooks, and Dad's mashed potatoes, stirred with his sacred wooden spoon. Evan, predictably, was late. Mom had the news on mute, the anchor mouthing silent secrets. I'd brought a salad, because we were told to bring something fresh. Anna set Lily up with crayons at the end of the table. Lily was drawing a taxi with wings. "Super cab," she declared. Evan finally walked in, 30 minutes late, clutching a paper bag from a fancy bakery, full of excuses about traffic. He kissed Mom's cheek, gave Dad a half hug that looked like a handshake gone wrong. He ruffled Lily's hair. "How's my favorite lady?" he asked. Lily, without missing a beat, said, "I'm drawing you a ticket for speeding." Evan laughed, a big, booming sound, like it was the funniest thing he'd ever heard. We ate. The conversation was soft, shallow. Work, neighbors, the old man who paints his mailbox every month. I waited for someone to ask about Lily's specialist appointment last week. No one did. I was used to being the one to make the first move. "Her oxygen levels are holding," I said. "The specialist is optimistic. The surgery window is late summer." Mom nodded, sipping water like she was in a commercial. Dad mumbled something about insurance being thieves. Evan, without looking up from his phone, chimed in, "Summer's rough for me. Busy season." He doesn't have a job with seasons. He has projects with moods. I started to say something about schedules, about priorities, but Mom cut me off, her voice suddenly bright. "Speaking of homes, Evan, tell them about the place." My fork stopped halfway to my mouth. "What place?" Evan gave a shy, smug smile. "It's nothing yet. Just looking." Dad couldn't hold it in. "Our boy found a cute bungalow near the lake. 2 bedrooms, big yard. Needs work, sure, but the bones are good." Mom put down her glass. "We want him settled. He's been unsettled far too long." She looked at me, that familiar look she gives a crooked picture frame, like she expected me to understand. "You know how it is." "How? How is it?" I asked, my voice flat. She just passed the potatoes. Lily, oblivious, leaned over her drawing. "Can Super Cab land on the roof?" Anna, ever practical, said, "Only if it's reinforced." I watched my parents. It was the look of people placing a crown on someone's head and convincing themselves it wasn't heavy. I didn't ask more questions because I wasn't ready for the answers. We cleared plates. Mom washed, I dried. You should really think about moving closer to us, she said, her voice laced with expectation. We could help more. I just said, we're fine. She sighed. You always say that. As we were leaving, Dad handed me an envelope addressed to him and Mom. Since you're going past the post office, he said. It feels light. I tucked it into my jacket. We buckled Lily into her car seat. Anna whispered, you okay? I lied. Sure. At a red light. The envelope felt heavy in my pocket. I pulled it out. I expected coupons, maybe a church flyer. It was an insurance binder. For a new property address I didn't recognize. Policyholder, the Bennett Family Trust. Primary resident, Evan Bennett. The light turned green. Someone honked. I didn't drive. For a second, the whole city went silent, the way it only does in your head. Anna put her hand on my arm. Mark, I swallowed. I could almost hear the old rolls of silverware around that dinner table, the quiet words, the subtle dismissals. I knew, with a sickening certainty, what was coming. And sure enough, when I asked them later, my father said, she's adopted. My mother added, not fully family, son, if we're being honest. That was the trigger, not the money, the sorting. I was 12 when I learned being older meant being responsible for other people's mistakes. Evan broke a neighbor's window. I gave up my lawn mowing money to keep Dad from having to deal with the paperwork. Mom said, you're a good brother. Evan just said, thanks, man, and vanished with a friend. At 16, I got my license and became everyone's chauffeur. Not just for errands, but for excuses. Could you swing by and pick up Evan? He got stuck. Stuck usually meant bored. At 19, I bought a used Corolla with cash I'd saved since freshman year. Evan called it our car and borrowed it so often I started hiding the keys inside socks. Don't be petty, Mom would say. I fell into taxi driving after a restless semester of community college, drowning in bills that couldn't wait for me to figure out who I was. What I liked about the job. Start meter, stop meter. Clear lines. People get in with a need, you meet it, you get paid. Not always fairly, but honestly. The city taught me routes the map didn't show, how lights really cycle, which alleys are safe, which bars spit out the loudest liars at 2 a.m. Lily's heart murmur came during a routine check. The cardiologist wrote the diagnosis in clear, stark letters. He didn't flinch when Anna cried. He just said, this is common and reparable. Common sounded like a lie. Reparable sounded like a map. We followed it. Appointments, scans, EKGs that looked like seismographs of a quiet earthquake. Money shifted from something we watched to something we chased. Insurance is a game where they change the rules mid-turn. I learned new words. Deductible, pre-authorization, out-of-pocket maximum. I started using a binder with tabs, like a paralegal. We cut luxuries no one would miss. I took more night shifts. Anna picked up extra bakery hours. Lily got used to falling asleep to the sound of my keys at 2 a.m. I tried to be quiet and failed. She'd sit up and whisper, hi, Papa, and I'd melt into a chair. I told my parents the facts, not the totals. I asked for help with logistics, not cash. Could you do school pickup on Thursdays? I asked. Maybe, Mom said, like I'd offered her a chore. We have choir. Thursdays are my poker nights, Dad declared. Evan just said, I'm slammed, which meant he wasn't. Meanwhile, Evan kept pivoting. He sold vintage shirts online, managed a friend's band for 3 weeks, consulted on a food truck. He moved back home because rent is a trap. He'd call me late at night. How do you talk to credit card companies? I'd tell him. He'd say, you're a lifesaver, and then not do the thing I told him. Small humiliations piled up like dirty dishes. Mom asked if we could keep Lily's situation private, because not everyone understands adoption or medical stuff. Dad rolled his eyes when I corrected him for saying real parents about Lily's birth parents. Evan posted a photo of Lily on his Instagram without asking, captioned Uncle Life, with a heart emoji trio. When Anna asked him to take it down, he scoffed. Relax, it's just a pic. I let too many things pass. I picked my battles the way a poor person picks apples, carefully, with an eye to bruises I couldn't afford. Then the first big bill hit. Insurance denied a test because the specialist had the wrong code next to his name. I called. I waited. I stayed polite. It got fixed. The second bill was the deductible. The third was a mystery charge that turned out to be the fee for having a cardiologist read a scan their own machine produced. I paid what I could, planned for the rest, and told myself, asterisk, we are okay. We're doing it. Asterisk, then came the envelope. The binder. The address I didn't know. I asked my parents the next day. Not a text, not a call. I drove over between fairs and rang the doorbell. Mom opened it with that look that says, we weren't expecting a pop-in, but we're dressed for it. I held up the binder. What's this? Dad came down the hall, glasses in his hand. He saw the papers. He didn't even pretend. We helped your brother, he said. How much is helped? I asked. Mom stepped in. That's not the point. What is the point? I shot back. Dad said, slow, like he was explaining a drill to a rookie. The point is that Evan is starting his life. He needs a foundation. I just stared at him. We asked you to be at a doctor's appointment, and you said quiet. Mom's mouth pinched. We're doing what we can. I said it then, softly, because a part of me still believed softness would help. Lily needs surgery this year. Mom looked at the kitchen clock. Dad looked at his coffee. We'll pray, he said again. Prayer is good. I replied, my voice steady. Action is better. Mom's eyes cooled. We've done enough for you. There it was. The invoice for being their child. Just then, Evan arrived, bag of takeout in hand, saving us from saying anything truly honest. He saw the binder and grinned. You saw, he said. It's not a mansion, just a start. Congrats, I said. It tasted like aluminum. Later that week, we were invited to Sunday dinner again. Roast chicken, quiet TV. I went because a part of me still believed in the power of showing up. They gave me a line to hold. I took it. I'm done with that now. The thing that broke me wasn't the house or the money. It was the sorting. The sentence, she's adopted. The add-on, not fully family, son, if we're being honest. A scale in their heads where blood weighs more than time. Where a signature on a deed matters more than a signature on an adoption certificate. A family that uses the word blessing like a coupon. I left that dinner with a decision heavy and simple. The kind that clicks into place like a seatbelt before the crash you no longer plan to prevent. Last night's dinner started normal. Mom asked about fares like it was still 1998 and cash was king. Do people even take taxis anymore? Dad asked, like I might say we stopped last week. Evan scrolled and laughed at something that only happened on his phone. Anna stayed home. We'd agreed one of us would keep Lily's bedtime on schedule. I brought a folder. I knew I needed props. People like my parents respect paper. When the plates were mostly empty, and the TV anchor's silent mouth looked exhausted from all the news he wasn't allowed to tell us, I set the folder on the table. I took out 2 pages. This, I said, tapping the first, is the hospital's estimate for Lily's surgery. I tapped the second. This is a photo of her from last week, riding a carousel. She's holding cotton candy like it's a diploma. Mom flinched at the picture. Dad leaned back. Why are you making a scene? I'm making a point, I said. Evan squinted. Dude, why bring that here? Because here is where the math fails, I said. Here is where you told me last week that Lily is not fully family. I want you to look at her face while you say it again. Mom shook her head, tears already gathering. We never said that. You did, I said, my voice steady. Dad said she's adopted. You said, not fully family, son, if we're being honest. I kept my voice low. I wasn't there to perform. I was there to set terms. Dad huffed. You're twisting us. No, I said. I'm translating you. Evan put his phone down. Something serious had finally started. We're all stressed, he mumbled. Money makes people weird. This isn't about money, I corrected him. It's about hierarchy. It's about how you decide who counts. Dad's face got that hard look it gets when the lawnmower won't start. We helped your brother buy a house because he needs stability. You have a place. You're fine. We rent above a pharmacy, I said. And fine is not the measurement of need. Mom's eyes filled with those shiny tears she could summon for any crisis, including not being the center of a conversation. How can you talk to us like this? In our home. Because this is where you talk to me like I'm an ATM who forgot his pen. I shot back. I'm done. Dad leaned forward, elbows on the table, his voice low and sharp. Careful. I leaned back. No. The word hung there, a new picture on a blank wall. I'm setting boundaries, I said. I should have done it 20 years ago. Here they are. I continued, my voice unwavering. We will pay for Lily's surgery ourselves. We will not take money from you if it comes with the price tag of disrespect. We will not co-sign anything for Evan. We will not be your emergency contact when a project fails, or a pipe bursts, or a credit card needs a clean name. Mom covered her mouth like I'd cursed. I hadn't. I was being cleaner than I'd ever been. Dad's jaw moved like he was chewing nails. You're ungrateful. I'm awake, I said. Evan tried one last time to be the hero. Bro, why are you burning bridges over a misunderstanding? Misunderstanding would be saying the wrong thing, I said. You said the real thing. I finally believed you. Mom sniffed. We didn't mean she's not family like that. We meant it's different. Different how? I asked. Different like you don't see her? Different like you get to opt out when it's hard? Different like you can buy a house for one child and tell another his child is a footnote. Dad pushed back his chair, the leg scraping. Get out. I will, I said, standing. My knees felt weirdly light, like the air had changed. But hear me first. I looked at both of them until they stopped moving. This isn't about revenge, I said. This is about closure. No one spoke. Even the refrigerator seemed to hold its breath. I'm closing the account where I pay with my silence. I'm closing the door where you come into my home with conditions. I'm closing the loop where Evan messes up and I fix it. You can call it cruel. I call it parenting my own family. Mom whispered, if you walk out, don't come back asking for anything. I won't, I said. And I won't come back to explain adoption to people who use it as a way to grade a child. Evan reached for humor and missed. 4th of July is going to be awkward. It'll be quiet, I said. I gathered the papers. I put the photo of Lily back in the folder. I left the hospital estimate on the table. You can keep that, I said. It's what respect costs. We're paying it. I walked to the door. Mom said my name, the way you call a dog about to bolt into the street. I didn't turn. I opened the door. I stepped into air that felt like air. The first thing I did when I got home was hug Anna, longer than usual. She pulled back, looked at my face, and nodded. She understood. Lily was asleep, her chest rising and falling in a rhythm I will never take for granted. The next morning, my phone started its performance. 7:12 a.m. Mom. Asterisk we should talk about last night. You overreacted. Asterisk 7:16 a.m. Dad. Return the spare key. 7:17 a.m. Dad. And the drill. 7:25 a.m. Evan. Asterisk dude. Yikes. Mom's a wreck. Asterisk 7:26 a.m. Evan. Just say sorry. 7:41 a.m. Unknown number. Aunt Barb. Family meeting tonight 6 p.m. I put the phone face down. I made Lily's lunch. Turkey sandwich, apple slices, and a note that said, "You are brave." I drove the morning airport run, pretending not to hear my phone vibrate like a trapped bee. At noon, I called the hospital billing department, confirming the payment plan we'd set up weeks ago. The one I kept telling myself was a parachute, not a curse. The woman on the line had a voice like warm socks. "We can start at $400 a month," she said. "If anything changes, you call me. We don't send people to collections without trying to help." I wrote her name down. I said, "Thank you," like she had invented the concept of kindness. At 2 p.m., Mom called. I answered, because I wanted the right kind of fight. The one where you show up and say your lines clearly. "I don't understand how you can be so cruel," she started. "I'm not being cruel," I said. "I'm being clear. We're your parents." "You are," I said. "You're not my judges. And you don't get to downgrade my daughter to make your choices look better." Silence. Then that sigh that means she's collecting tears for later. "Your father is very upset." "He'll live," I said. "So will we." By evening, the family chat looked like a bulletin board for a small-town drama club. Aunt Barb. "We must set aside differences." Cousin Jess. "Blood is thicker than water." Uncle Pete. "Kids today are so sensitive." My cousin Ben DM'd me separately. Asterisk proud of you. "I've got a spare AC unit if you need one." Asterisk I sent him a heart. I muted the main chat. At 6:03 p.m., there was a knock like a landlord's. I checked the peephole. Dad. I opened the door with the chain on. He held up the spare key like a witness holding an exhibit. "Returning this," he said. He put it on my palm. It was warm from his fist. "You'll be back when you need something." "I need you to stop saying that," I said. His mouth tilted. "We'll see." I closed the door. I put the key in a drawer with batteries and rubber bands and other things that are useful but not urgent. The next day, Evan called 12 times. I answered on the 13th because curiosity isn't a virtue. "This is getting out of hand," he said. "Mom didn't sleep." "She'll sleep tonight," I said. "Try chamomile." He laughed, like I was being funny on purpose. "Seriously, you know they didn't mean it like that. They're old school." "Old school is for music, not ethics," I told him. "You really going to ice us out over a sentence?" "It wasn't a sentence," I said. "It was a policy." He exhaled. "Whatever. Can you come by Saturday to look at the inspection report? The house has some weird wiring. Dad says you know this stuff." "No," I said. "A beat." "No," I repeated. "Hire an electrician." He hung up without saying goodbye. Progress, in a way. He used to believe I was an appliance. That week, I made a new list, titled New Rules. I wrote them on an index card and stuck it to the inside of a cabinet, like a restaurant's food safety certificate. No loans, no co-signing, no emergency rescues, one channel of contact. Email, no late-night texts, no drive-bys. Any visit requires respect for Lily. One comment, and the visit ends. Anna kissed the top of my head. "I like this Mark," she said. "He's boring in a brave way." We told Lily a kid version. "We're taking a break from Nana and Papa," I said in the car after school. Grown-up feelings got tangled. She was quiet for a minute, thinking with her whole face. "Is it about me?" she asked. "No," I said. "It's about how we protect our home." "Do you still love them?" "I love us more," I said. "That's what dads are supposed to do." She nodded, satisfied. "Can we get ice cream?" We got ice cream. She picked rainbow sprinkles. I picked chocolate, because sometimes you say yes twice. The date came. July 18th. I wrote it in the calendar in big block letters. We built a plan like a bridge. Neighbor on call for the cat. Anna's coworker on call for bread deliveries if she needed to bow out. My boss approved time off. The night before, I lay awake and counted the tiny sounds the apartment makes in the dark. The radiator's hiccup. The upstairs neighbor's chair. Lily's breath. At the hospital, Lily was braver than anyone. She asked the anesthesiologist if the mask came in purple. It didn't. She